Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into something pretty vital, but maybe a bit under the radar for most folks. The specialized law enforcement working within our national parks. We all love the National Park Service. Their mission, that dual mandate, is amazing, keeping these incredible places pristine and letting millions of us enjoy them. But think about that balance. It's tricky, right? Especially with, over 420 parks and sites and millions upon millions of visitors every single year. So yeah, protecting the nature, the history, and managing all those people, that's already a huge job. But then you add crime into the mix. And it's not just minor stuff. Sure, there's vandalism, maybe some drug issues. But in 2014, for example, the parks reported 15 murders, 47 rapes, 62 robberies. It happens. Which brings us to our deep dive. The National Park Service Investigative Services Branch. The ISB, they're the specialized investigators most people have probably never even heard of, but they're crucial for protecting the parks and protecting us when we're there.
It's really interesting because law enforcement in the parks, it actually started before the National Park Service even existed. Think way back. Like Yellowstone in 1872, there weren't really state agencies set up out there yet, so who protected it? Army engineers, cavalry units.
The Army, wow, okay.
Yeah, for Yellowstone, and then later for places like Sequoia, Yosemite in the 1890s. Military protection, basically. And it wasn't just about the scenery. The Antiquities Act came along in 1906. That was huge for protecting cultural stuff, stopping people from looting ancient ruins and artifacts. But even earlier, you had civilian park watchmen going back as far as 1791, mostly watching government property in cities at first, but their powers grew. By the 1880s, they could act like city police. And that group eventually became the United States Park Police, the USPP, in 1919. Now, today, you mostly find USPP in D.C., San Francisco, and New York City, but they actually share jurisdiction with the NPS Rangers nationwide. It's kind of layered.
Right, okay. So you had the military, then these park watchmen evolving into USPP. Then the NPS is officially created in 1916. And those rangers we picture in the flat hats, they did everything.
They really did. Visitor info, fixing trails, fighting fires, and law enforcement. A true generalist role.
Which sounds practical at first, maybe. Small system, fewer visitors back then.
Exactly. But as the park system ballooned, and frankly, as crime got more complicated, that generalist model started to show its limits.
Oh, so what were the cracks that started appearing?
Well, think about the 70s and 80s. You've got rangers pulled in a million directions. How do you dedicate serious time to a complex investigation, like a homicide or a major theft ring, when you also have visitor emergencies, resource monitoring, everything else?
Yeah, I can see that. Competing priorities.
That's the exact term they used. Even when some bigger parks did get specific criminal investigators for a while, the NPS actually swung back to the generalist model in 1984. They expected rangers to handle it all, from a stolen picnic basket to, well, murder.
That sounds problematic.
It was. It proved really difficult for tackling those serious, complex cases effectively. It just wasn't sustainable.
So it sounds like there was this back and forth, this kind of organizational learning curve happening, trying to figure out the best way to handle law enforcement.
Absolutely. You saw glimpses of specialization trying to emerge, like Yosemite hired a dedicated law enforcement specialist back in the mid-60s, and that led to the very first formal criminal investigation offices in Yosemite and Olympic National Parks by 1976.
Okay, so the need was clearly there.
Right. They were learning that, while generalist rangers are absolutely essential for the day-to-day, for that initial response, you need dedicated specialists for the really naughty long-term stuff. Cases that need focus time, specific skills a ranger juggling 10 other duties just doesn't have the bandwidth for.
Okay, so this tension builds. There are these experiments with specialization. What finally tipped the scales? What made them say, okay, we need a separate dedicated investigative unit? Was there a specific report or event?
There was. The real catalyst came in March 2002. It was a report from the Office of Inspector General, the OIG, for the Department of the Interior, the DOI.
The agency that oversees the NPS.
Exactly. And this OIG report, it took a hard look at law enforcement across all the DOI bureaus, not just parks, and it found some pretty significant issues. It basically called for major reforms.
And the ISB came out of that.
Directly. As a response to that OIG report, the Secretary of the Interior ordered reforms. And boom, April 2003, the Investigative Services Branch, the ISB, was officially created. They took all those specialized investigators who were kind of scattered around in different parks and pulled them into this new central office under the main Washington Support Office, WASO.
And structurally, that was a big deal, right? How they report.
Huge. ISB agents don't report to the superintendent of the park they might be working in. They report up the chain to an associate director in D.C.
Why is that important?
Independence. It means they can focus purely on the investigation without, local park pressures or maybe superintendent having different priorities for their staff that week. It ensures a dedicated, focused approach on these serious cases.
Okay, so the ISB is up and running. If I'm heading to Yellowstone or the Grand Canyon or, even smaller historic site, what does the ISB being there actually mean for my visit, for my safety?
It means there's this dedicated, highly skilled team whose whole job is focused on the serious stuff. Their official mission is, quote, immediate and long-term protection of park resources, visitors, assets, employees, and residents.
Around the clock.
Year-round, around the clock. They're the ones tackling the most complex and sensitive cases.
And what kind of cases are we talking about? You mentioned complexity.
Well, their official scope is complex, sensitive, and/or long-term cases of all types of crimes happening on MPS land. By handling those, they free up the regular park rangers to deal with the more routine calls, patrol, visitor assistance. It helps the whole system run better.
Can you give some examples of the types of crimes ISB handles?
Sure. It's incredibly broad. You've got crimes of violence, obviously, homicides, sexual assaults. There was a notable conviction in Yosemite related to that. Vehicular assaults, armed assaults. I remember one case at the Jefferson National Expansion Memorial that resulted in a 35-year sentence. Serious stuff.
Okay.
Then there are major property crimes. Big thefts, embezzlement like that case where a child care center director in Yosemite embezzled tens of thousands of dollars. Fraud cases, too.
Right.
But here's where they get really unique. Major resource violations. This is their special niche. We're talking major vandalism. There was a case involving a woman convicted for damage across 7 different MPS sites.
7. Wow.
Yeah. Also, illegal logging, poaching, and violations of specific federal laws like ARPA, the Archaeological Resources Protection Act, and AGPA, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act.
ARPA and AGPRA. Those sound specific. What do they protect?
ARPA is about protecting archaeological sites and artifacts on federal land from looting or damage. Think ancient pottery, arrowheads, ruins. AGPRA deals with the return of Native American human remains and cultural items found on federal lands back to the appropriate tribes. So ISB cases might involve catching people digging up artifacts or even dealing with stolen human remains. There was a case involving vandals at Devil's Hole who actually killed an endangered pupfish.
Oh, wow.
And another where a former monument superintendent was convicted for stealing ancient American Indian remains. These cases require really specialized knowledge.
You mentioned a green blood culture earlier. Is that related to these resource crimes? What does that mean?
Yeah, it kind of speaks to the mindset. Green blood suggests these agents often have a deep connection to and understanding of the natural and cultural resources they're protecting. It's not just standard policing applied to a park.
So it's more than just knowing the law.
Definitely. It's understanding ecology, archaeology, history, combining that with investigative skills. It's a different focus than, say, an FBI agent might typically have, though they certainly cooperate. They also handle other incidents, things like investigating officer-involved shootings within the parks, complex wildfire arson investigations, even narcotics smuggling that might be happening across parklands.
So they've got this huge range of complex cases. What kind of tools or techniques do they use? Are they like, CSI, Yellowstone?
Well, they certainly have sophisticated capabilities. They use things like computer forensics to analyze digital evidence. They can conduct covert operations if needed. They have teams for detailed crime scene processing. They use technical surveillance. And they have a dedicated intelligence analysis unit. That intel team helped out on, I think, 80 different MPS investigations just in 2016.
It's like impressive. And it sounds like they don't just focus on catching the bad guys, right? What about the people affected by crime?
Absolutely crucial. They have a strong focus on victim and witness assistance, making sure people are treated with respect, understand their rights, and get the support they need. That's a core part of their job.
And are they trying to get the public involved too?
Yeah, increasingly so. They have a public tip line, which is really important. And they've definitely upped their game on social media using Twitter, Facebook to put out alerts, ask for information, and it works. Those tips have helped crack cases.
Smart. Are they also building up their own ranks internally?
Yes, they put a lot of effort into training and development. They have mentoring programs and even an internship, the ISB Special Agent Detailer Program, where regular park rangers or USPP officers can get experience working with ISB. It helps build that internal pipeline of talent, people who already have that green blood.
Okay, so they're doing vital work. They've got specialized skills. But it sounds like it's not all smooth sailing. You mentioned staffing issues earlier.
Yeah, that's probably their biggest challenge right now. There's been a pretty stark drop in the number of agents. I think the numbers were around 55 agents back in 2003 when they started, and by 2023 it was down to about 30.
30 agents for the entire country, all 420 plus park units.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It's a 45% drop. The main reason cited is funding shortages. It got serious enough that a task force was put together in 2023 just to figure out how to address the staffing problem.
Wow. With only 30 agents, how do they manage the workload? Does that mean cases might not get the attention they need, or maybe certain types of crime just don't get investigated?
It's a real concern, and honestly, it's a testament to the agents they do have that they accomplish so much. You look at the numbers, like in 2016, the Pacific Field Office, which covers a huge area, handled over 260 investigations, even while being understaffed. That same year, system-wide, ISB agents opened 385 new cases, and were working on almost 600 total cases. The caseloads are intense.
So they're stretched thin.
Very thin. But they have had some positive steps. That same year, 2016, they managed to hire 6 new agents, which, believe it or not, was the largest single group they'd hired up to that point. They also established a dedicated officer-involved shooting team, which is crucial for maintaining standards in those incredibly sensitive situations.
Okay, let's talk about their authority. What can an ISB agent actually do out there?
Well, they're federal law enforcement officers. They carry firearms. They can make arrests without a warrant if they see a federal offense happening or if they have probable cause to believe someone committed a felony within the park system or is fleeing from one.
And they can serve warrants, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They can execute search warrants, arrest warrants, just like other federal agents when authorized by a court.
Got it. Now, jurisdiction in national parks seems like it could get complicated. Parks cross state lines, they're near towns. How does that shared jurisdiction work? Does it help or hinder?
It's definitely complex, but it's designed to ensure coverage. Basically, ISB steps in when other federal agencies, like the FBI, aren't already leading the investigation, or they work with those agencies if they agree.
So lots of cooperation needed.
Tons. Cooperation with the FBI, DEA, Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife Service, plus state and local police or sheriff's departments.
Yeah.
It's absolutely essential. The MPS can also deputize state and local officers, give them temporary federal authority within a park if needed. It's a network.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, there's one aspect of their work that feels particularly, heavy. Cold cases.
Yeah. Unsolved cases weigh heavily on any law enforcement agency, and ISB is no different. They actively work on cold cases, missing persons, unsolved deaths or accidents, old criminal cases where they just never got a resolution.
And they're still looking for answers, even years later.
Absolutely. They always stress that new information, maybe some new physical evidence found, or a development with a potential suspect could break a case wide open no matter how long ago it happened.
A lot of these are missing persons, you said.
A significant number, yeah. And it just highlights how incredibly challenging search and rescue can be in these huge, wild places, the terrain, the weather. Sometimes people vanish with barely a trace despite massive searches.
And they're asking the public for help on these.
Constantly. They have that tip line, 888-653-00009, online tip forms, an email address, .npsb@nps.gov. They really emphasize that any piece of information, no matter how small it seems, could be the key. These aren't just forgotten files gathering dust.
Can you share some examples, just to give a sense of the kinds of cases they're still working?
Sure, some are quite well known, sadly. There's Paul Braxton Fugate. He was actually a park ranger who disappeared from Chiricahua National Monument in Arizona back in 1980. Foul play was suspected early on. The reward is up to $60,000 now, almost 40 years later.
A park ranger himself.
Oh. Yeah. Then there's Stacy Ann Aris, just 14 years old. She vanished during a mule trip in Yosemite in 1981. Or Dennis Lloyd Martin. He was only 7 when he went missing in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in 1969. Just playing with other kids and then gone.
God, that's heartbreaking.
It is. And it's not just missing persons. Armin B. Johnson was found murdered in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park in 2005. There's still a $10,000 reward out for information on that one. Even cases going way back, like Robert Bobby Bazoop, 10 years old, went missing near Rocky Mountain National Park in 1958. His remains were found inside the park the next year, but they never could determine exactly how he died.
It's incredible that they're still actively working these cases from 50s, 60s, 80s.
They are. They use modern techniques like trying to find potential relatives through DNA for unidentified remains, things like that. The commitment is definitely long term. They don't give up.
So wrapping this up, the ISB sounds like this really vital, specialized force born out of necessity.
Exactly. They're a critical piece of federal law enforcement, specifically tailored for the unique environment of the national park system. Their whole existence, that shift from generalist rangers trying to do it all to this centralized, specialized branch, it was driven by the hard reality of complex crime and the limits of the old model.
And their job covers such a wide spectrum: violence, property crime, but especially those unique resource crimes that need that special green blood knowledge we talked about.
Right. It demands both traditional detective skills and this deep understanding of environmental law, cultural heritage, ecology. It's a unique blend.
But they're facing real hurdles, especially that staffing shortage. It sounds like a major challenge for keeping up with the need.
It absolutely is. It points to a bigger question about whether we're adequately funding the protection of these places. But despite that, the ISB agents achieve a lot. They solve tough cases, they support victims, their dedication is clear.
So, for you listening, the next time you're in a national park, taking the views, maybe walking a historic trail, just take a second to think about these folks. These silent protectors, the ISB agents working behind the scenes, often spread incredibly thin, dealing with challenges most visitors never even imagined. That dual mandate preservation and enjoyment and really is a tightrope walk. Does knowing about the reality of crime in parks and the dedicated but under-resourced team fighting it change how you view these places? Maybe think about the role we all play. Staying alert, reporting things that seem off, just being aware that protecting these treasures is a constant, complex job. Something to consider.